Alarm bells are ringing across European capitals as President Trump's return to power reshapes the geopolitical landscape. With Ukraine's fate hanging in the balance and NATO's foundations shaking, Europe is confronting its starkest challenge since World War II. The question isn't just whether Europe can resist Trump, it's whether it can survive without America.
A dozen leaders from Europe and Canada are in Ukraine's capital. They have gathered to mark the third anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Reeling from one shock statement after another from the Trump administration, European governments are trying to show they are united in their support for Ukraine.
Putin is trying harder than ever to win the war on the ground. His goal remains Ukraine's capitulation, and we know what could happen next, because it has already happened before. It is not only the destiny of Ukraine that is at stake, it is Europe's destiny that is at stake.
Russia's strategic target is Europe, European way of life, and therefore its security. European destiny cannot be defined without Europe. Ukraine, Europe together with the United States, must be at the table for talks in front of Russia so that need for peace is not talked down again by promises of normalization, reboot or compromise.
But beyond the bravado, it all boils down to hard power. The big question, can NATO stand alone and face Moscow without Washington's support? The reality of Europe's defense capabilities tell a more complex story. According to estimates, in order to effectively deter Russian aggression independently, Europe would need to mobilize approximately 300,000 additional troops and increase defense spending by at least $240 billion annually. They would need over 1,400 new main battle tanks and 2,000 infantry fighting vehicles, surpassing the current combined inventories of major European military powers. The challenge extends beyond mere numbers. Where will the billions come from? Who would coordinate? Who would take the lead? There are deep divisions within the European continent. European leaders are scrambling to respond. French President Emmanuel Macron, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and EU Foreign Policy Chief would be rushing to Washington separately. They are aiming to dissuade Donald Trump from finalizing a hasty ceasefire with Russia's President Vladimir Putin that could potentially jeopardize European security interests.
No deal without this can work, so that is very clear. You can discuss whatever you want with Putin, but if it comes to Europe or Ukraine, then Ukraine and Europe also have to agree to this deal, and that's why we need to be discussed whatever there is.
The urgency is palpable. As the US and Russia forge ahead with peace talks that exclude key European stakeholders, the continent must decide whether it can stand up to Trump and assert its strategic autonomy. The decisions made in the coming days will have profound implications for Europe's security architecture and its role on the global stage. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Our correspondent Anas Malik is in Ukraine. He's now joining us live from Kyiv. Anas Malik, good to see you. The European leaders and also Canada have expressed their solidarity with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. What's the latest from the capital?
Well, the leaders have left. Eric, it will not be wrong to say that the leaders have indeed left. That's what we have confirmed. But these are words of reassurance that have been given to Ukraine by these leaders, by these European leaders and NATO member countries, or leaders of NATO member countries rather. What remains to be seen is that how will these words of reassurance materialize into practical actions. It's been a relatively calmer and quieter day. Just once we heard the air raid alarms going off in the city, despite the fact that it's marking 3 years of the anniversary of Russian invasion, yet it's been a considerably calmer and quieter day if you compare it to yesteryears or earlier years as well. The Ukrainians here, they look forward to an earliest resolution of the conflict as the war enters into a 4th year, but they believe and they hope that the gains that Ukraine has made, territorial gains that Ukraine has made, especially in the regions alongside Sumy in Kursk, they will be withheld and Ukraine will somehow get to stick to them. They also believe that the territorial concessions that is much talked about with regards to Ukraine's 20% of the Ukrainian territory being occupied, from there Russia will be pushed back, and that any solution for Ukraine will be in accordance with the wishes of the Ukrainian people at large. Eric?
All right, that is Anas Malik, our correspondent in Ukraine. Thank you, Anas. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.